Okay, so you're interested in finding safe and natural ways to kind of feel good and maybe even explore like different states of mind.
Yeah, and you want good info without, like, getting totally overwhelmed, right?
Exactly. That's what we're doing today. A deep dive into all that.
We've got all sorts of sources lined up, from scientific articles to, like, health websites, all about these altered states of consciousness
Natural highs, yeah.
without the whole, like, risky drug thing.
Exactly. So our mission for you today is to like extract the key takeaways.
The surprising stuff.
Yeah, actionable insights, yeah, from all this research on how you can safely shift your consciousness.
Think of this as, like, the distilled essence
Ooh, I like
of
that.
all that research.
Yeah, so we're focusing on like what really matters and what you can actually use. Okay, so first, let's talk about the basic like brain chemistry stuff. The research points to like a bunch of neurochemicals involved in those natural good vibes we're talking about.
Like endorphins, right?
Yeah.
The classic ones linked to pain relief.
Yeah, and then you have dopamine, that whole pleasure and motivation driver.
Serotonin. Super key for mood.
Oh, and then there's oxytocin, right?
That's the love hormone.
All about connection.
And then this, like, super interesting group called endocannabinoids.
Ooh, yeah, endocannabinoids are fascinating. So they interact with your brain in like similar ways to cannabis, but they're totally natural.
Made by your own body.
Wild, right?
They influence so much, like, pain perception and mood regulation.
Even memory, too.
Which brings us to exercise and that classic runner's high.
You always hear it's all about endorphins, but our sources, like especially that NCBI PMC data, they really highlight endocannabinoids
Especially anandamide.
as the real like key player.
There was this really cool mouse study that showed that running for a while actually increased their endocannabinoid levels.
And it seemed to like ease their anxiety.
Yeah, by acting on these CB1 receptors in the brain.
Which are like super important for regulating mood and anxiety.
So it's not just about pain, it's a genuine mood shift.
Yeah. So if you want to tap into this like runner's high for yourself, the research says you got to aim for at least 45 to 60 minutes of like continuous aerobic exercise.
Think running, cycling, swimming.
At a challenging but sustainable pace, you know?
Consistency seems to be key here.
Yeah, consistency for sure. Okay, let's switch gears to something you always have with you, your breath.
Sources like Science Direct and PubMed Central show that breath work can, like, really alter your state of consciousness.
It's pretty powerful stuff.
There are different ways to do it too, from, like, slow, controlled breathing to these more, like, rapid ventilation techniques.
And here's where it gets really interesting for you guys. It's not just relaxation exercises. This stuff can actually modulate your autonomic nervous system.
That's your body's control center for things like your heart rate and digestion.
They can actually like shift your blood chemistry, affect blood flow in your brain.
Even influence your brainwave patterns.
One technique that we found in nature is that 4-7-8 breathing method. Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah, it's great.
So you inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and then exhale slowly for 8.
This slower breathing really engages your parasympathetic nervous system,
which promotes relaxation.
You can often feel the effects almost instantly.
Now let's think about some longer-term changes that you can make meditation. Our sources, especially PubMed Central and Psych Central, they found that meditation can actually lead to some significant structural changes in your brain.
It's pretty wild. We see improved connections in the white matter of your brain.
Think of it as like better communication pathways.
And we also see an increase in gray matter in areas like your hippocampus,
which is super important for memory and managing emotions.
Interestingly, the amygdala, which is like your brain's stress center,
it kind of shrinks with regular meditation.
That's fascinating.
And you don't need to be like a total meditation guru to see results.
Even just focusing on your breath for a little while,
like even as little as 3 days to 2 weeks,
can really improve your focus and concentration.
Okay, let's talk about something a little more intense now, cold exposure. Research from the Huberman lab shows that cold exposure can trigger this immediate release of certain neurochemicals.
We're talking a surge of epinephrine and norepinephrine,
which really sharpens your alertness, but what's really interesting is the dopamine release that follows.
Yeah, that's what impacts your mood and focus.
And studies from Wiley Online Library showed that cold water immersion can actually reduce negative feelings and boost positive ones.
If you want to explore this safely, start with like cooler showers.
Yeah, Sark Gardens.
Like 15 to 30 seconds, and then slowly increase the time.
As you get used to it, yeah. Okay, now for a totally different kind of experience flow state.
UC Davis describes it as like being completely absorbed in what you're doing, to the point where time just disappears.
It's like that feeling of being in the zone, right?
Neurologically speaking, flow often involves a quieting of your prefrontal cortex,
which is the part of your brain that does all that like conscious analysis.
And at the same time, there's an increase in those performance-enhancing neurochemicals.
The key is to find activities that balance the challenge with your skill level, you know?
Exactly.
You also can't forget the power of social connection.
Zinnia Health reminds us about oxytocin, the hormone that creates feelings of trust and well-being during social interactions.
So it's really important to be intentional about creating those moments, you know?
Yeah, even just having good conversations and actively listening to others can boost your oxytocin levels.
And it just enhances your overall sense of well-being.
Absolutely.
And finally, let's not forget about laughter.
Oh yeah, such a good one.
The Mayo Clinic says that laughter releases endorphins and lowers stress hormones like cortisol.
So maybe seeking out humor could be like a simple way to get those benefits.
So there you have it, all these natural ways to explore different states of consciousness safely.
It's less about chasing some fleeting high and more about like understanding the incredible power of your own mind and body.
Which of these methods really speaks to you?
Experiment. Start gradually and see what shifts you notice.
Considering how connected our minds and bodies are, what other potential for fully experiencing life might be hidden in these natural processes?
That's for you to find out.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
See you next time.
Bye.